Polls are showing us that the swing voters in the United States, the ones who went for Biden in 2020, but then flipped back to Donald Trump in 2024, a good number of them are regretting their
Hi,
votes.
beautiful people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by, supporting your girl on this channel. So, guys, as we know on this channel, all credit goes to the creators in this video. So, guys, in today's video,
They wish they had not gone back to Donald Trump, and they are not happy with anything that he has done since taking office. However, the rest of the people who voted for Donald Trump, those hardcore MAGA fans, the Republicans, most of them are loving everything, even though they are suffering under his policies. They're still paying higher prices. They're still being fired from their government positions. Their spouses have been detained by ICE. Nevertheless, they like what's happening. And in a recent opinion column for The Guardian, columnist Arwa Madawi actually lays out a very good rationale for why these Trump supporters who are getting hurt by Trump are still okay with it. Because as she puts it, these people who are suffering under Donald Trump still support him because the people they despise are suffering even more. Let me read you this. The stock market is plunging, prices are rising, federal workers are getting laid off, students are being snatched off the street by immigration agents. The U.S. is many things at the moment, but stable is not one of them. So amid all this turmoil, how are all the Donald Trump voters feeling? Has buyer's remorse set in? Not according to the polls. Everyone is feeling some pain right now. In a hyper-polarized country, however, what seems to really matter to many voters isn't how much pain they're feeling themselves, but whether the other side is suffering more. Right now, however, Trump is hurting the sort of people many of his voters seem to be interested in seeing get hurt. He's an avenging angel, wreaking vengeance on the elite institutions, scapegoats and boogeymen that the Republican Party has spent years blaming for the state of the U.S. He's cut funding to all the Ivy League universities he's called woke and declared out of touch with American values. He's gone after transgender people, and he has rounded up immigrants and protesters just as he promised he would do. Trump isn't just doing every vindictive thing he told his supporters he was going to do. He's trolling his detractors via nasty memes. He's rubbing salt in their wounds. Trump may be hurting all the people he said he'd be hurting. There's plenty of pain to go around. But that pain could get worse in the months ahead, she warned.
I'm going to say this for the FAFO, because I don't care about the find out phase. This is about speaking up for women. For those of you that have lost your jobs or have to pay more for goods or services, collecting unemployment, maybe your Social Security is late because of what you voted for, I don't care. That doesn't bother me. That's up to you. What I care about is the fact that you didn't see sexually assaulting a woman as a red line. You are disgusting. You are morally repugnant. I have people in my life that were crying on the phone with me, women that were victims, knowing that people like you didn't care how he treated women, that he cheated on his wives, that he left his third failed marriage at home with her 2-week-old son while she's recovering from childbirth, to bang a porn star in Las Vegas. You didn't care that he called women Pocahontas, called them fat, called them ugly. You didn't care that he nominated Pete Hegseth, who cheated on all of his wives and had children out of wedlock. You didn't care that he nominated Matt Gaetz, who had sex with minors. And you didn't care that Wormbrain was put up there, who had so many affairs on his first wife that the trauma that it caused her emotionally caused her to take her own life. But Paul, the price of an egg. You hoard yourself out for $1. Would you have voted for him if he had done that to your mom, or your aunt, or your sister, or you? Oh, that would be different. Oh, but if it happens to somebody else, somehow that's okay. Because, I'm a single issue voter. All I care about is my damn self. And that's the problem, and that's what you don't see. If you think somebody like my family member or myself are just going to break bread with you and say, hey, we have a difference of opinion. No, we don't have a difference of opinion. What he did was morally reprehensible, and it is unforgivable. You normalized misogyny and sexism and the mistreatment of women in this country. And it's damn time that we took a stand as men and stood up for the women of this country and stopped putting up with this bullshit. Enough is enough. Have you ever thought why in 250 years, while 50% of our country are comprised of women, why we've never had a woman president? Oh, you just want the most qualified yeah, it's always a man. Because it's full of misogyny and sexism. But you can't even admit that. It has to be the men in this country standing up and drawing a line in the sand. I'm not going to find common ground with people that accepted that. It is disgusting. If you want me to break bread with you, knowing that you thought that that was okay, the mistreatment of women, you have another thing coming to you. The time of you just agreeing to disagree and voting against people's best interests, that ship has sailed. That is done. You drew your line in the sand and you said, I only care about myself. Then go worry about yourself. Don't come asking other people to care about you when you lose your job, when the tariffs go up, when you don't get your Social Security check, when your Medicare gets cut, because this is what you wanted. You only cared about yourself now, but you want everybody to care about you now. Maybe if you would have cared about everybody when you voted, you would be in a different situation. Something to think about.
Good morning, FAFO crew. It's Monday. Hope everybody had a good Easter if you celebrate. But I can tell you who did not have a good weekend, and that was the Cheeto himself, Pervert Hoover, Groper Cleveland. Because if you didn't hear, Canada has a new trade partner for oil. China has slashed 90% of the oil incoming from America, and they're buying from the new Trans Mountain pipeline that is now supplying 890,000 barrels per day to the Pacific. Yes, Canada basically looked at Donald Trump and his tariffs and said, fuck off, and made a deal with China. What does that mean for you? Well, you Trump voters fucked us. You know, you've known that. You just don't admit it. And our gas prices are going to go up. Our natural gas prices are going up because, oh, by the way, LNG Canada is sitting there on the West Coast as well. And I think they are now doing 570,000 barrels of liquefied natural gas, LNG. So our prices are scheduled to go up by like 80 cents per gallon. Go look at Mr. Global. He's got a lot of great information. He's actually in the industry. He knows everything about it. He knows the fact that, you know, energy independence was a big thing, right? That's what the Republicans would all say. We're not energy. We were. We were producing more than we've ever produced. Drill, baby, drill is not a thing, right? Oil prices are coming down, so our oil companies are already starting to shutter operations. And now with this, well, good luck to all of us, and the sooner this Cheeto gets out of office, the better we all will be.
Hey, Mom, do you think that the Republican Party and MAGA are the same thing?
Absolutely not. I grew up Republican, voted Republican my entire life, and the leaders that I admired were incredibly respectful of women. They would never weaponize Christianity because they were not hypocristians. They lived their faith. They treated people with different ideologies with respect, not like enemies of the state. They would never raid the Capitol. I don't even recognize that. They handled hard issues, immigration and abortion, but with compassion. And I think because politics wasn't a game show. It wasn't cruelty for claps. What's happening now, that's not the party that I believe in. This is something else entirely.
So would you vote Republican again?
I don't know that the Republican Party exists anymore. This is MAGA. I will not vote MAGA.
There truly seems to be no end to the ways that the Trump regime is absolutely screwing over America's farmers. And I will continue to cover each and every one. Before I get into the ways that Trump's tariffs are real bad news for our soybean and corn farmers, I want to address a sentiment that I keep seeing in my comments every time I cover something agriculture related, whether it is the way that America's farmers are being hurt by Trump cutting off grant funding that has already been allocated by Congress, money that has already been promised to our farmers to do things like help their farms become more resilient in the face of climate change, invest in more green and advanced technologies, invest in earthworks that reduce fertilizer runoff and protect our watersheds, or whether it is the labor shortage due to attacks on our immigrant farm workers, or whether it is Musk illegally canceling USAID contracts so that America's farmers are left holding bushel after bushel after bushel of sorghum and soy and corn and wheat, tanker truckloads of milk that would have been turned into powdered milk and sent abroad for food aid, or whether it is all of the USDA funding of good ag research. All of that science that's just been completely axed by this regime. Crop and soil science that would have really helped America's farmers. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about all the ways this regime is harming our farmers. But whenever I make content about it, I get a lot of comments that are like, you know what? Fuck around and find out. Tons of America's farmers voted for Trump. And they're only complaining now that they're finding out that the policies they thought were going to hurt other people are actually hurting them. And yes, there is truth to that. I completely agree. I understand the sentiment. But you also have to understand that a lot of the farmers that are protesting, I recently did a video on farmers in Maine who had a tractor protest about over USDA funding cuts. Again, money already allocated by Congress that Trump is not releasing, plus new cuts. A lot of those farmers did not vote for Donald Trump. They've never supported him. But for those who did vote for Donald Trump, I just want to remind y'all, it is not too late for them to wake up to the reality of the nightmare that they supported, the harm that they caused by voting for Trump, and to say, well, shit, this was not good. I have done wrong here. And then start to work to fix it. If any of America's farmers are speaking out against the Trump regime, if what he is doing to their industry is enough to get them to withdraw support and to speak out, to call for an end to this madness, then cool. Welcome to the party, America's farmers. Are we going to forgive you? Are we going to extend trust to you when you were hoping that it was going to be brown people who were suffering, disabled folks on Medicaid, trans kids? No, we're not going to trust you and we're not going to forgive you. But you know what? We will let you work to make amends. We will support you in that endeavor. Show us that you regret what you did and that you realize now that you thought Trump was going to make America great again, but you understand he lied to you. You understand that the only thing he wants to do is to enrich himself and to make other billionaires even richer off the backs of working class Americans. That he wants to destroy America's farms. He hopes every small family farmer goes out of business so that they have to sell their farm to big corporations, because for him and Elon Musk, that's their secret goal. It's not so secret. They don't want you and I to be business owners. They don't want any of that. They want giant mega corporations that are run by their buddy billionaires. And they want all of us to be little factory assembly line workers, little cogs in their machine. They don't want you running your own farm. They don't want agricultural subsidies to go to you. They only want them to go to big ag. They want to drive you out of business and take your land. They want you to have to sell it for pennies on the dollar because you have gone bankrupt. Because they've taken the grant funding that you relied on, the subsidies that you needed, the contracts for your crops from USAID. They've taken all of that taxpayer money and they have put it directly into the pocket of Elon Musk. And speaking of taxpayer money, right, we know that tariffs are a tax that we pay, the taxpayer pays, the consumer pays. And we know that we are in a trade war with China now because of Trump's completely nonsensical tariffs. There is not an economist out there who will tell you that they are anything but disastrous. And so China has said, if you're going to pull this bullshit with us, okay, you can play at that game. So I want to share with you from worldgrain.com an article from today, April 21st. It's entitled, China Halts U.S. Corn and Soybean Orders. China has not placed an order for U.S. corn or soybeans since January 16, 4 days before the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump. That's according to Nikkei Asia, citing data from the USDA. Trump, who during his first term as president sparked a trade war with China in 2018, Do all of America's soybean farmers not remember how horrible that was for y'all back then? And yet so many of you voted for him again this time around. I just struggle. Trump has made good on his campaign promise to increase tariffs during his second term, not only on Chinese imports, but on products from many other countries as well. Trump has imposed tariffs of up to 145% on imports from China, which has responded with its own 125% tariff on products from the U.S. and vowed to, quote, fight to the end, end quote. Trump's disastrous tariffs and resulting trade war have cost the U.S. its position as the #1 supplier of soybeans to China. Brazil has now overtaken us. And last week, Chinese negotiators traveled to Brazil to hold bilateral discussions to further expand import of Brazilian soybeans to China. Even though we have fallen out of the #1 spot, America still sends about half of our soybean crop to the world's second most populous country, China. In 2024, China imported more than 27 million tons of soybeans from the U.S., worth $12.8 billion. That is data from the USDA. U.S. soybean farmers initially applauded Trump's recent announcement that most of the countries impacted by the tariffs would get a 90-day reprieve, providing an opportunity for negotiations. With the pause came a rate drop to 10% for each of the countries itemized during that announcement, except for China. Earlier this month, the American Soybean Association released a statement that said they were deeply concerned about the continuing escalation of the tariffs with China and the way that is impacting our soybean farmers. We run the risk of immediate impacts this growing season, along with the impacts a prolonged trade war with China will inflict on our industry once again, said Caleb Ragland. He's the president of the American Soybean Association. The short-term disruptions are painful, but the long-term repercussions to our reputation, our reliability as a supplier, and the stability of those trading relationships are hard to even put into words. We're still reeling from Trade War I, the last time Trump screwed over soybean farmers, and we are currently not thrilled about an extended Trade War II. The United States soybean market share is also being pressured by China's effort to become more self-sufficient in grain. A report released on April 20 by the Chinese Agriculture Outlook Committee under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs said China is expected to increase grain production in 2025 to a record 709 million tons, up from last year's peak of 706.5 million tons, while also strengthening its capacity to supply grain and other major agricultural products to itself. It said output is being pushed up mainly due to increased efforts to boost per crop unit yield on a large scale. Caleb Ragland from the ASA brings up a really good point. It's not just that the tariffs are hurting our soybean farmers, all of our farmers right now, that they can't sell their crops, they're losing their contracts. Look at the bigger picture to what Trump is doing in terms of our reliability as a supplier, the way he's destroying those trading relationships with other countries. He's fucking our farmers over for decades to come. While these horrible tariffs are in place, those countries, they are finding other suppliers for their grains, for their goods. They're cultivating relationships and forging contracts with farmers in other countries. And they're not going to cancel those contracts whenever this Trump regime is over. This will take decades of work to recultivate and try to get back into the market and reestablish ourselves. And how inclined are other countries going to be to trust us, right? What goodwill could we extend as American farmers? Trump is in the process of destroying all of that goodwill. There won't be a market for us to step back into after this. Trump's tariffs are shutting America's producers out. He is isolating us from the international market. He's cutting us off from the global economy. But those economies will keep going. They'll just be partnering with each other over here, and we will be isolated over here. You know, like how your narcissistic ex-boyfriend would isolate you from friends and family so that he could control you, so that you didn't have those connections. You had less stability. You didn't have those resources and relationships. That's exactly what Trump is doing to America's producers, farmers, our economy. He's crippling us. He's isolating us. Ultimately, that benefits exactly one entity: Russia. We are going to watch more of America's farmers go out of business. The damage is already really severe. How much longer are we going to let it go on before we stop it? This isn't good for our economy. It's not good for our farmers. It's not good for our security and our future as a nation. There's no short-term pain for long-term gain. It's just sweeping economic devastation, the loss of people's livelihoods, the loss of decades-long trading relationships, the long-term destabilization of America. There's not one damn thing about this that is making America great again.